European regulators are suggesting that Google calm its concerns over unfair competition by selling part of its ad business. The regulators issuing a report saying that Alphabet, Google's parent company, appears to be breaching antitrust rules. Google now faces regulatory challenges on both sides of the Atlantic. With more on this is Yahoo Finance's Alexis Keenan, and Dan Howley is back with us. Alexis, first of all, what does this EU report mean exactly? What are the implications?
Yes, so this is a preliminary report by the EU's antitrust regulator, the European Commission. And what they're doing is they're putting Google on notice to say, we don't like your ad tech business. We think it violates European antitrust laws, and we would like you to divest some of the businesses that you have in that market. They say that Google is using its dominance in that market to unfairly participate in the place where publishers and advertisers converge to buy and sell advertising online. They also, I want to note that the U.S. is also charging Google with a very similar violation of antitrust laws. So the company is facing this problem on both sides of the Atlantic now. Google, of course, not liking this measure. It's a huge revenue stream for the company. It responded by saying that the EC's investigation focuses on a narrow aspect of its business and that it's not new. The company's spokesperson went on to say that the company will oppose any measure that the EU takes to try to make it divest any of these businesses, and it would push back in that regard. Now, the EC report for the actual words on the paper there, they go like this. They say that the EU's preliminary view is that only mandatory divestment by Google of part of its services would address its competition concerns. And it says that this alleged self-preferencing that they say that the company is engaging in possibly harmed Google's competitors, also publishers, as well as driving up advertising costs. So those are the main concerns there. But this is a preliminary step, possibly one to start opening up negotiations with the company if it will do so.
So it's a preliminary step, but Dan, we know the EU has been the most aggressive, especially on regulating big tech, specifically American tech. What does this mean in terms of the pressure Google faces back home here in the U.S.? And ultimately, to Alexis' point, it is the big revenue driver for the company.
Yeah, I mean, in their statement, the European Commission basically said that they're working with the U.S., the DOJ in particular. So, obviously there's a close relationship. And then they went on to mention some of the member countries that they've worked with to get data on this. For Google itself, the breakdown is astonishing. Google advertising in 2022 accounted for $224.5 billion of their $282.8 billion in total revenue. So, it's a massive, massive amount of money that they depend on for their advertising business. The rest is, stuff like Google Cloud, other bets, things here and there. But it's basically pennies compared to what they have as far as the advertising business. If they're forced to break that up, I mean, you can only imagine what that would mean. It also, is worth pointing out that Facebook is one of the largest advertising companies in the world as well, or platforms that companies use. So could help build up on Facebook's kind of power in this area. I think that's something that's worth mentioning.
I don't really understand what Google is allegedly doing wrong here. Can you explain to us?
Yeah. So essentially what they are is they're saying that they're acting as all three pieces of a kind of buy and sell scheme, right? Not scheme as in a negative, just how it works, right? So they're saying they're working for the ad buyers, the ad sellers, and then the intermediary where that buyers and sellers exchange to see where ads get placed. And so because they're able to do this, they say that they were self-preferencing themselves, able to offer better bids than they would get publishers would see otherwise or advertisers see otherwise. And so because of that, they're saying that's really where the issues arise and why they shouldn't be able to continue to operate in this manner. So, it's interesting when you see it laid out in the chart. The European Commission had sent one out, and you look at it and you're like, oh, whoa, that doesn't look right. So, I mean, and then they go into discussion about how, Google's able to change things here and there and make it look maybe kind of not necessarily obfuscate, but make it look better than it otherwise would be presented. So when you see it laid out like that, it's kind of stunning to see.
Well, and you have to wonder, to your point, Facebook, Meta, Amazon, I mean, they're all watching this closely to see what this means for their operations in the EU. Let's talk about what's happening here in the U.S. There's another company that could be dealt a huge blow here, and we're talking about this acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft. What's the very latest there, and what does it mean ultimately for how this could all be resolved?
Yeah, so a federal judge has basically said that the idea here is Microsoft wants to buy Activision Blizzard. There was worry at the FTC that they would go ahead and do that, complete the acquisition prior to the FTC being able to work out their lawsuit against Microsoft trying to block the deal, right? So they went ahead, FTC, and talked to a federal judge, filed their suit, said, look, we want to be able to block Microsoft from being able to complete this acquisition before we have our own say. And so this basically means that Microsoft is on hold until then, and we'll see whether or not they can go ahead and complete the acquisition or not prior to the FTC when the case is taken up later this month. But, for Microsoft, it would be their largest acquisition. $70 billion would mean that they would get the whole of Activision Blizzard's IP, and it would make them the third largest video game company in the world by revenue. So a lot goes into this. The EU is okay with it. The UK is not. Other countries are okay with it. So it seems like it's dividing a lot of opinion.
So the big thing here to watch, though, is next week, and that is on the 22nd and the 23rd of the month. The judge in this case is going to hold a hearing to decide whether a more permanent injunction, it's called a preliminary injunction, but should an injunction block this deal from going forward while the FTC figures out what it wants to do on an administrative level. That's outside of the court. That's being handled by an administrative law judge. So that is the date. If the judge decides after that hearing that this deal is going to be blocked during the pendency of that review, then the lawyers that I have talked to in this space, they say, then you should better expect that maybe this deal is now off the table. So we'll be watching for that.
Interesting. All right, mark your calendars, June 22nd, 23rd. And thank you so much, Alexis and Dan. Appreciate it.